a constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. This is ABC's Wide World of Sport.
I'm okay. I'm pretty upset and angry that someone would do this, and I really want to skate today, but the doctors all said I shouldn't.
The reason is a thigh contusion or bruise that's associated with knee swelling. The swelling is secondary to blood within the knee.
The pattern is becoming frighteningly familiar. Random acts of violence against individuals in the public spotlight. This time, the victim was Nancy Kerrigan. It all began around 2:40 on Thursday afternoon. Kerrigan was leaving the ice after a practice session at Cobo Arena in Detroit. She placed guards on her skates, a simple task she had completed thousands of times, and satisfied with her preparations, walked toward the exit. But there was someone waiting for Nancy Kerrigan.
When I was getting off the ice from practice, I was walking toward the locker rooms away from the ice, and someone was running behind me, and I started to turn, and all I could see was this guy swinging something maybe like this long, this thick black, but it looked maybe like, I don't know what it was. I didn't get a good look. It happened so fast. Maybe like crowbar or billy club or something.
With Kerrigan writhing in pain, her assailant fled. Police believe he was this man, a white male, 6 feet tall, weighing approximately 200 pounds.
I didn't get a good look because he kept running so fast away from me. And I heard he went through the door to get away. But
the suspect burst through a door and escaped, leaving his victim behind.
Why? I don't know, some hard black stick. Something really, really hard. Help me. We're gonna get you to the training. We're gonna get you to the training. So scared. So scared. It hurts so bad.
Dan Kerrigan, who had worked overtime to support his daughter's skating, now had to carry her out of the arena. The 24 hours that followed were a whirlwind of activities. An unexplainable act of violence had once again interjected itself into the world of sport. The assault on Nancy Kerrigan became an international story.
Nancy is very heartbroken. She has worked her butt off in this since Prague to get here. And this was her competition, and she wanted to prove that she is back.
And by not being able to compete this week, I want 2 more. And I want to prove that I can do this, and all this work wasn't a waste.
The ladies' final will continue without her, and there are others with something to prove. 91 national champion Tanya Harding, 16-year-old Nicole Bobek, and 1982 world champion Elaine Zayak. Tonight we'll bring you live the ladies' final of the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. And we'll talk with Nancy Kerrigan, a spectator on a night she should have been the star. On a special edition of ABC's Wide World of Sports from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, it's the Legs U.S. Figure Skating Championships. Good evening. evening, everyone. I'm Julie Moran, and what a roller coaster week it has been here in Detroit. Tonight, we will bring you 3 hours of primetime figure skating, culminating with live coverage of the Ladies' Championship. We will have the final of the pairs competition. That was skated earlier today, and a report on the dance championship. And by the end of the evening, we should have a clearer picture of who will represent the United States at the Olympic Games next month. We'll talk live with a member of the '94 Olympic team, Brian Boitano, and we'll also expect to talk live with Nancy Kerrigan. I'll be joined by Peggy Fleming and Dick Button in a moment. But for the latest on the Nancy Kerrigan story, let's join my ABC Sports colleague, Jimmy Roberts. Jimmy?
Well, Julie, thanks very much. And because of the unfortunate incident earlier in the week, so much of the news here at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships has focused around Nancy Kerrigan. Here is the latest information we have on several fronts. First, Nancy's medical condition. That's a diagram of the knee, and the patella right there, which is the kneecap, you can see the squiggly line just above it. That is where the injury occurred. Nancy said that her biggest concern in retrospect is that if the injury had occurred 1 inch lower, it could have quite possibly shattered her kneecap. And of course, the implications there are quite obvious. Now, earlier today, Dick Button spoke to Malin Bradley, who is the United States Figure Skating Association orthopedist, and he said it's entirely possible that Nancy Kerrigan could be skating within 1 week, and she could be jumping within 2 weeks. So, as for whether or not Nancy Kerrigan will be headed for the Olympics in Norway, well, let's take a look at the rule which, in all probability, will send Nancy Kerrigan to the Olympic Games. There it is, International Competition Rule number 5.05. The committee may also consider for selection other competitors who did not compete in the most recent United States Figure Skating Association championships. Now, directly at the conclusion of competition, the 45 members of the International Committee will meet in this room, which is actually the Detroit Red Wings dressing room. They will caucus and they will decide on who the Olympic team is. We hope to bring you that information. We certainly will share it with you if we have it before we are off the air. So, what is the latest on the investigation? Well, we're joined now by a man who we hope can shed some light on just that. This is Deputy Chief of Police Benny Napoleon, and I guess the obvious question is, do you have any leads?
Well, we're exploring and pursuing several leads in the investigation at this particular time. We've received numerous telephone calls and people giving us additional information since the incident occurred, and we are pursuing every lead that is telephoned into the police department.
Now, security here at the arena is tight as a drum tonight. How many police officers do you have stationed here?
Well, that is a figure that we're not really prepared to give out. We adjusted the security based upon the request of the figure skating association personnel. We have adjusted according to what they felt their needs are.
All right. Now, real quickly, we understand that within the last half hour, the Detroit Police Department has released 2 composite sketches. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we've interviewed 6 eyewitnesses who viewed the perpetrator. 4 of the eyewitnesses indicated that the perpetrator was a white male. 2 indicated that it was a very light-complected black male. And we have composite sketches of both, and they look very similar. It would be difficult to tell which one was the white suspect and which one was the black suspect just by looking at them. But again, 2 of the eyewitnesses agree. 4 others agree that it was a white person. So we've released both composites.
All right, thanks very much for joining us, and obviously we wish you luck in your endeavors. And before we are off the air today, we will hopefully bring you those 2 police composite sketches. And oh, by the way, there is a competition going on here today. And what are these, the competitors saying? Well, publicly, almost to a person, they're saying that if Nancy Kerrigan should be named to the Olympic team, it's no problem. They think she's earned it. Privately, actually, some of them are saying that all of this that's gone on this week has served them because the attention and the anxiety has been siphoned off and they've been able to compete in relative obscurity, if that's possible. But here's what you need to remember. The reality is that this competition tonight, in all likelihood, is being competed for one single Olympic berth. Julie?
Thank you very much, Jimmy, and I'm joined now by Peggy Fleming. And Peggy, what are your thoughts on the events over the last 48 hours?
Well, Julie, this senseless attack on Nancy has struck a nerve with all of us. Suddenly, sporting events are no longer safe, and the public is slowly being pushed farther and farther away. Now these young athletes have one more thing to deal with as they pursue excellence in sports. But the realities of life refuse to exempt anyone, athlete or not, and violence is a very unfortunate part of today's world. Whether or not Nancy goes to Lillehammer, she has to put this behind her and draw on the strength she's worked so hard to gain. She won't be the same Nancy, but maybe the same Nancy's not what she needs. She cannot let this incident destroy the bright future she's earned.
And Peggy with us, as always, Dick Button. And Dick, your thoughts?
Well, the reaction to Nancy's unfortunate attack have been very well documented, but just maybe, there's a positive side to this sorry incident. Having been in 2 Olympic Games, I can attest to the enormous pressure skaters put on themselves as they approach an Olympic Games. Now, many times this concentration centering on every skating move can build to such a point that it destroys the very subject it focuses on. Nancy will now have to deal with the question of whether her leg will heal in time and she can be physically ready to compete. Now, this argument is admittedly a bit of a reach, but it might be just enough to change the focus of her tension and release some of the enormous pressure on her.